some more stuff, and I'm like, I guess she doesn't want to talk.
I'm always talking. I talked yesterday with no one in the room except her.
I get like that. Like my mom's best friend, she texts me the whole time. She'll keep texting me and texting me and texting me. By the time we're done, it's like an hour and a half of texting. And I'm like, this whole time this lady could have called me and we would have saved more time because all the texting takes time and for it to actually send her.
When I type with one finger.
Every time.
Okay, so accountability. If you do not have your client write it down, that's why the behavioral contract, remind me so I can give that to you so you can post it on the class, is such a good effective tool with clients. You can start the session, the first session you can start with a contract. Let's identify the goals of therapy. Let's identify what we want to cover in here. If not, we're going to get sidetracked. But you check yourself that it's not your judgment. That's really what they want to talk about, okay? And you're going to structure your sessions in different ways. Some people, like I've said, they just go and they talk. That's not how I work. I do it a little differently. So you're going to find your model, you're going to find your way, and you're going to develop your own thing, which is part of what you guys are doing this month with research methods. And what's 7?
Ceremony or ritual.
A ceremony or a ritual. Why do we give them homework? What is the purpose of ceremony or ritual? What does it do?
To summarize.
It's okay to let go.
Well, what is it trying to do? What are we working on?
Oh, both sides of the brain?
To sink it.
Information.
Ritual and ceremony shifts the subconscious. It goes directly to your inner child. It is play. Remember, we talked about this. It's play. It's creative. And your inner child is satisfied because that part of you was chopped off. That's part of you that was castrated. And part of the reason you created chaos, part of the reason you shocked yourself into these skinny cows was to go back to what? The child. And the child needs to play. Why does the child need to play?
The chakra.
Thank you, the chakra. Which one?
The sexual one.
The sexual chakra, the second chakra. What color is it?
Red.
No, close.
Orange.
Orange. Yes. Okay. And why do we need to stimulate the second chakra? Besides being the sex center, it is also the what on the board? The creative center. And what comes out of the creative center? It's in the word.
A baby.
No.
Your
A creation.
Oh,
A creation. And what is it that we want to birth? A new what? It's in the word. What is it that we want to do? Birth a new what? A new creation story. Because we're trading our Costco card for our Nordstrom's card, correct?
yeah.
That is why we give them ceremony or ritual. You can call it homework, you can call it play. Anyone see those coloring books now,
Yeah.
adult coloring books? Did you see what I posted?
They're pretty cool.
The one I posted, the fuck it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there's this one that's called like the fuck it coloring
Yeah.
book for adults.
I love it.
And so all of the cool images have like one bad word in it. It's really fun. So that's something you can give. Okay? You
I should
bring
color
them
one.
to play. So then you have do, re, mi. What happens at me? A shock. What happens with a shock?
Change behavior.
Well, it doesn't happen immediately. What do you get with a shock?
Wake up.
Chaos. Thank you. Chaos. When you have chaos, what are you going to try to do? Stabilize it. What number is the number of stabilization? 4. Okay, so now we're in the adult. What makes you an adult? Accountability. What causes behavior change? No, I mean, I didn't phrase the question correctly. It's actually not wrong. What leads to behavior change is accountability. That's what I was getting at. Okay? Do you see why we use this? Okay, let me check the time. Oh, we have time. We're going to go through it with one person. Who wants to be the guinea pig?
Not me.
No, you already had your pig.
I'm always the guinea pig. Somebody better step up to the plate.
Somebody do. Rebecca?
No. Majority of the time.
Does Rebecca want to be
Let's
there?
vote on Becca.
Okay.
She's like,
No. So,
nah, she's smart.
a client comes in and they come and tell you a story. I like for my clients to tell me a story so I can listen, so I can figure out what's going on, right? So I can hear a thread and pull it. So why are you coming to therapy today?
Does it have to be like something current?
It does not have to be certain current. However, just so you know, FYI, person, place, thing, or situation is your parents, must be something that on a scale of 1 to 10, so it could be your nail breaking or you know, having a disease, must be something irritating, aggravating, something that's distraught.
Okay.
So it could be something old, does not matter, because a thread is a thread is a thread. It could be something from 20 years ago. I don't know if you were even 20, but, well, then it would be from 20 years ago because it's the origin story. Okay, so it's definitely from 20 years ago. 0 to 7. Okay, so just so you know, so sometimes the client's telling you all this good stuff, you know, they can tell you the good stuff, but then when the problem sort of starts, that's when you're starting to see this unfold. Okay,
So can I tell you a problem that's recent?
you can tell me whatever you want.
Okay, so I'm in a relationship, but I met a friend and he's like, oh, but I like you, right? And so then I was getting attached to that person, but it's just like, he's just giving me attention. And to me, I think that's why I became attracted to him, but I still love the person that I'm with. Do you know, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm having this conflict of like, do I like him or is it just the need that I want from him? Because my boyfriend gives me the needs, so why is it that I'm going to somebody else as well?
Okay, what are we hearing?
Judgment.
No. What do you hear? I mean, this is classic triangulation. Classic. Remember I talked about triangulation, that every single one of us comes from a triangle? Classic triangulation. That should have jumped out. The minute you hear, whether you're infiel, how do you say that? Whether you cheat or not, or whatever, the fact that you're flirting with the guy, unfaithful, whatever it is, there is a triangle. Who comes from a triangle? Every single one of you raise your hand. Every single human being comes from a triangle. That's why we create these dramas. Who? You don't come from a triangle? No? You have no sperm? She spermed herself. Because it's Daniela, of course. Okay.
If anybody
So-
could, she could.
Yes, exactly. Yes. We're going to see that in a research article and on Oprah one day. Trust me. I got to get your signatures on one of your drawings. So I've got to cash in on something later on. During a skinny cow, I'm going to come find her. Okay. We come from triangles. Mother and father. What did I tell you about alliances?
You choose one more.
What did I tell you about alliances?
You're gonna go one for one.
Speak up. Don't be afraid to be wrong. It's okay. I'm wrong all the
She
time.
said it too.
I didn't hear her. What did you say?
We lean more towards one of the two.
Yes. Every single child and parent is going to have an alliance. with one of your parents more than the other. The ideal, which does not exist, which is ultimately why you're changing and becoming birthed from yourself, as Jesus told Nicodemus. Do you see why we use the second chakra on child? Is because every single parent and a child have an alliance that's out of place. It should be the alliance between the parents, and the child should be disciplined accordingly. But that does not happen. The child is used as a pawn. I need two people. Two people, just stand up. You guys are like so afraid. I don't understand. Just come here. Just pull, go. No, take my hand.
Oh my God.
Take my hand.
Do you have hand sanitizer?
Don't worry. Okay, you're going to be mother and you're going to be father, and I'm the child. I want you to tug of war me.
I'm like unbalanced here.
But that's exactly it.
Oh, my bad.
I'm going one way or another. What are you offering me? Shit! What are you offering me?
Discipline?
No.
I don't know.
You've got to be offering me something that you're the mom.
Yeah.
What, dads don't give love? That's a freaking judgment. That's a whole class right there. I'm kidding, come here. Your parents are fighting, and you're going to go to one of the unmet needs. Or you're going to go to one of the better buckets. So you might be offering me body image, and what are you offering me? This is very subconscious.
Freedom.
Okay. Ooh, I like that one. I'm going with Dad. Okay? She spoke to my Sagittarius ascendant. There you go.
Yep.
So we're in a tug of war, and we end up with one alliance. All you are in is in a basic triangulation that you have been in since the moment of conception. That is it. Did everyone see that? Who did not see that? Because that was so basic, jumped out. If you did not see it, raise your hand. That's okay. Everyone saw it? Trisha, you saw it? No? Okay, well, why didn't you raise your hand? Did you hear? You didn't what?
I didn't want to be the only one.
Oh, okay, well, that's another story. That's a whole other class. Okay. You see how we speak from our unmet needs? That's a group comment. Or standout. Where she stood out somewhere negatively. Maybe like Miss Peacock. Remember the story of Miss Peacock and my student, my client who didn't tie her shoelaces or know her address? And she didn't want to be different. So there's a thread there of not being different, that's 0, or wanting to be different all the time is 100. Okay? So we're speaking from our unmet needs. That's what I want you to hear. So you're in a classic triangulation. That's the overall picture. Who wants to be the therapist to Rebecca and ask her the questions? Come. 2 people. You bring your chair. 1 other person. Don't be shy. You gotta work. This is clinical. How are you going to be therapist if you can't even do mock stuff in a classroom? You have the questions here that you can't. I can't make it any easier for you. I have chewed it and spit it out for you. Bring your chair. We're simply going to go through the steps. That's it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we now know that Rebecca doesn't like the fact that there's a person triangulating her relationship and that she may or may not have feelings for him. Okay, so you have the gist of the story. So what's the first step? What's the question? Okay, you need to explain to the client your model, right? You explain to the client, we've talked about this. You, in your first encounter with your client, You explain from what theoretical perspective you're working from. In this case, you're working from the mother, father, child triad, coming to counseling centers around the world one day near you, okay? My legacy. So, just in a brief, can you explain what that step means? No, the step of why you're gonna ask her that question.
Oh, because I want to get some background information so I'm able to better assist.
Okay, you wanna educate your client as to the model that you're using, no matter what it is, so that they have a common language, do you remember this? And we have constructs in which we're working from. Remember that lecture? Okay. So you want to educate her that every single person, place, thing, or situation is her mother or her father. So in this situation, is this infidelity, or whatever word you want to call it, triangulation, mother or father?
Oh my God, person is situation.
This is a situation.
Part of your mother or your
I would say my father.
Okay. Why?
I'm not sure, but if I was to choose one, I would say my dad.
Okay. Very common that clients don't know which one. And the reality is, note for your psyche and for your notebook, your mother and your father are the exact same person. Exact same. Your mother is Virgin Mary, your dad might have been a slut. Same person, 0 to 100, right? That's a language that we have. You're all of it, you're none of it. So it's very common that clients on this step don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay? Now we haven't asked about the buckets and all that, and we're not. We're not doing that right now because we've done that. So we're just going through the questions. Okay. What don't you like about the situation with your boyfriend, blah, blah, blah?
Right. What
No,
don't-
say it.
Oh,
Get comfortable.
What don't you like about the situation between this new guy and your friend?
Well, I don't like it because I don't like confrontation. So I don't like the fact that there now is chaos in my life, and it's unnecessary to me. So it's creating something in my life that I don't need. Because I'm perfectly fine with my boyfriend, so why is my friend coming along and being like, hey, like whatever, and giving me more attention when he knows? I don't know.
What are these? What did she say?
Oh,
Judgments. Exactly. Judgments are linked to values. When you ask this question, you are getting insight to the client's value system. Someone in her parents, someone in her life, or herself is not confrontational. Confrontation is a negative. There is a value judgment there. When she says, I don't like confrontation, she didn't pull that out of her ass. That's learned behavior. I love it. Especially after 6 days of not talking. I lost it yesterday. I was like, okay? That question is going to give you so much information. Let them talk. Let them have diarrhea of the mouth. You are going to get all the judgments, all the values, the origin story in this question. So who doesn't like confrontation, mom or dad? Or who's non-confrontational, or who's too confrontational?
My dad is too confrontational.
Okay. So you check. You don't have to tell the client, oh, I'm checking that you were right in question number 1. That's not. But for yourself. Because when you get to the bad buckets of dad, you're going to start seeing the similarities and the shadow. Okay? So, perfect. Okay, so what don't you like? She doesn't like confrontation. So her inner child is saying she doesn't like confrontation.
Right.
And there's a part of her who wants to send you to fuck land, but she won't. Okay? Is that what keeping you from
Yeah.
telling this guy, go fuck yourself?
Yeah. I
I
just
have a
don't want to tell
boyfriend.
him. Like, he knows I have a boyfriend. That's what's bothering me.
What is
Is
it?
that he keeps like talking to me as if I don't. And I'm sitting here like
Okay, what is that? What's that called? He keeps hitting on her, even though, what, well, that's a judgment, we don't know, I mean, it's obvious.
Yes.
Plus you have a moon in Leo, so I know you like it, because Leo's a sign of attention, so that's your form of love, okay? But besides knowing that, because you might know that before the client walks through the door, but you have to validate the client. She's playing victim. But more than playing victim, what is happening in the roles? There is a big theme thread here with roles. Is your dad Latin?
yes.
Is he machista?
What does that mean?
How do you say machista?
Macho. Is he a macho?
Yes. He likes to be the one in
Did you
control.
hear that? She's the one who wants to tell the friend, hey, back off. She won't, because besides the father having the bad bucket item of confrontational, in your thread, in your box, the erection we need to give her is roles. Who gets what role? Did anyone hear that? When I ask you, it's not to laugh at you, or it's to teach you. That was, he knows I have a boyfriend. The body language said it all. He should be the person to back off. The man is in charge of doing that. That is learned behavior. How did your parents meet?
I don't know.
Okay. Were they married when your mom was pregnant? Okay. You know anything about your pregnancy or your conception or?
The only thing I know is that I'm anxious because my mother was anxious about having another miscarriage. That's all I know. So that's how I know where my anxiety comes from.
Okay. Because of this class or because of therapy?
Oh no, because of this class.
Oh.
I asked her, I was like, oh, like, do you like remember anything? She's like, all I know is that ever since you were born, I knew you were gonna be anxious because I was super, super anxious. during pregnancy.
Just FYI, anxiety is a nervous system thing, and do you remember who that is? Mercury. And what was the Mercury role?
Communication.
To communicate from the underworld to the upper world. So, is it time to go?
No.
Oh, I thought you were
Oh, no,
looking at
no.
the clock.
I,
Okay.
no. I was my wrist.
Okay. So there has to be a strong Mercury somewhere in the chart or a strong Gemini.
Does that have to do with the confrontation issue?
It could. It could. She could have, that's a great question. If she has a Mercury in a very soft sign, which is funny because I have one in Pisces and I should not be confrontational, but there are other reasons why I am. Mercury in a soft sign could indicate, or let's say in Scorpio. Scorpio can definitely be confrontational, but in a very sly, sneaky way. And that happens to be her shadow.
Because
Scorpio is her earth sign.
confrontation is
So there is a sneaky stinger there, boy, and she's hiding behind this sweet little doll face.
maybe that's what she's afraid of, letting that out.
Oh, totally.
I have had it happen.
Totally.
So I know.
Because she's her dad. Totally, because she doesn't like her dad's thing.
But she's also associating confrontation with something negative with not speaking.
That's why when the client answers second question, you're getting all of the values. They're going to spit out your values and their judgments. So we now know exactly what's in the bad buckets, and we didn't even do that part of the activity. So I'm just sort of asking questions that I would normally maybe get from the triad when we do the child script and things like that. So your mom had anxiety. When was the miscarriage? How much more before you?
I'm not sure. I think it was a year, maybe.
Okay, you're their first child?
Yes.
Okay. Were they having a boy or a girl?
A girl.
Okay, what were they gonna name her?
Cecilia, I think.
Okay. I ask about the name because oftentimes it's just so creepy to me, but it happened to my mom. Someone will lose a child and they'll name another child the name of that child that they were
Yep.
naming.
My
Oh my
nephews.
gosh.
Okay,
Both
and
my
that,
nephews.
okay.
Ooh.
According to certain postmodern,
Well, I don't know about
Theories.
the first one, but the second one, yeah. She had a stillborn. I even carried him and everything. Looked just like my nephew now when he was born, and they named him the same exact thing.
okay, so there are beliefs in certain,
We buried the first Giuliano with my brother. We took his little urn and we put him with my brother. Yeah, because they didn't know what to do with the urn for so long, and then that day my mom was like, "Oh, you want to just put it together with my grandparents?" Like my grandparents and my.
but the
nephew.
baby died before your brother.
Yeah.
Oh,
My first Giuliano nephew. That's how I have to always say it. It's kind of weird. And my grandparents all three were buried with my brother in his casket.
Okay, so there's a belief system in transgenerational or ancestral astrology or family constellations that if you have a death date, a birth date, or a name repeated in a family lineage, that you're going to repeat some of those themes in that person's life.
They were even born
So
almost on the
take
same
that
day.
for what you want, and you can apply it. So I was asking her, just in case. So her mom had a year. Behavior change, minimum 2 years, which I talked about yesterday. So maybe there wasn't time to adapt, and the anxiety was still plaguing, okay?
I felt fear.
And what Mr. Apache said too about the communication or the lack thereof, where if anxiety is the nervous system and you're already communicating to yourselves, I'm a spaz, oh my God, there's no need to, okay? So we compensate accordingly. Okay, where are we?
Is there a question?
Okay, did she tell you what she didn't like? Did you educate her as to what her shadow is?
Yeah, I asked her why didn't you like it, and she said confrontation, chaos.
Okay, so you're gonna have a different way of doing therapy than I'm gonna have. Everybody's gonna have their own style. You're gonna have your theory, and you're gonna write your paper, and you're gonna pick your theories that you like, and this may or may not be one of them. I am an educator. I know that about myself. That's just one of the only things I know about myself. And I think I said that exact same line when I was 20 years old. It's the only constant in my life is that I am a teacher. So I am not going to remove my tendency, because we don't change tendency, we change behavior, from my session. I am an educator. When I'm in conversation, I listen to say, oh, I'm learning. If I'm an educator, I'm a learner too, right? So I'm constantly in this mode of learning and teaching. So in my sessions, I teach. Not all therapists are like that. Therapists might just listen and give you some cues that they're listening, validating you. You feel better because you talk. They might refer you to an article or a movie, and that's your session, and you feel. And many people would say that that's traditional, what you should be doing. That you should not be interfering, that the client should have their own aha moments and put their own pieces together because they're listening to themselves talk and they're up. But you have to know yourself. So that is a teachable moment. That's why it doesn't matter if we get to step 7. That might take 7 weeks. She may never come back after today. Assume your client's first time is what? Their last. So you want to leave them with something. So right there, we get to teach her what we just talked about. Of course, as you get more comfortable, and as you know what to say, and as you feel and you practice, then that's when you're going to stop and go, oh, so this, and this. So we know that her mother was anxious during pregnancy. Does this relationship with this other guy make you anxious?
Yes.
Okay. She said several times attention. and she's not wrong, but she also said that her boyfriend gives her, and she used the word needs, that he meets her needs and gives her the attention. But we know that the subconscious is developed how? What are the 4 steps to developing the subconscious according to your teacher? This should roll off your tongue right now. Conception, pregnancy, birth, and 0 to 7. So we have information about pregnancy. And pregnancy, we established a little while ago, is where the emotions are, and